I'm inside and I got issues.
Oh yeah, those are good because the original hits. Now there's none of that.
Today's issue is ISOM number 1. Eric July is the writer, Cliff Richards is the artist, Gabe Al-Taib is the colorist, Eric Weathers is the letterer, Alan Ford and Carol Brown is the copy editor, and Marcos Rios is the concept artist. I'm gonna be grading this comic on the salad scale. S for story, A for art, L for lettering, A for action, and D for drama. What does this book get? Let me tell you about all the happenings that goes on in this world. And buckle up, there's a lot. The story starts 2 weeks ago in West Florespark, Uptown. A man on a TV says violent crime has decreased by 12% and it's only been 6 months into his term. Man with gray hair be yelling at the TV, "Dang it, why does he never give us credit?" Former Governor Chirac rerouted funds away from the South Side. Masked weirdos helped them out. What does that mean? What funds? Funds from where? There's no further explanation of these funds. Also, this is the only mention of this plot thread at all throughout the rest of the book. Then the guy with the gray hair's employees starts talking about Alpha Core and this chick with red hair and how she's so hot. And then the boss be like, get out my office. And then the chick comes in, running in with the phone, shows him, says, she's back. Who's back? Then we're earlier, from 2 weeks ago. We're in the Shadow Valley outskirts of Florespark. We meet Avery punching a punching bag in the middle of his track and field with a bunch of outside gym equipment. Outside, exposed to the elements, Altona gives him a ring. It's his sister. Immediately he says, no. Could you look into Jasmine? She's gone missing. Do it for Mrs. Newman, please. Originally, Avery's like, why don't you just call the Popo? I'm not your Popo, I'm not your detective. What am I supposed to do? Altona be like, well, you can go talk to Darren about it. I wouldn't bother you, but Mrs. Newman asked me to ask you. She was last seen with Darren, and you know Darren isn't the most upstanding citizen. Also, because Darren and Avery were previously friends, that this is somehow supposed to get Darren to tell Avery where Jasmine is? What's the logic in that? Especially if she's working for Darren. What is Darren's motive to telling you where Jasmine is? If you won't do it for me, at least do it for Mrs. Newman. And then Avery's like, okay, I'll do it for Mrs. Newman. She never missed service. If Mom found out I didn't help her, Mom would kill me, so I have to go help her. Avery's saving Jasmine because he's scared of his mom. A lot of the exposition is delivered with Avery doing tasks. Avery goes into some sort of building, talks to Sam. He'd be like, yo, you gotta prepare Jim's orders, be there by 6. And then the way the dialogue is written is so confusing and clunky. Avery wasn't born there. He left by choice. He went out of his way to get away from it all. He continued to build, so he has no reason to return. He always finds his way back to the city. Dun dun! Somewhere you would not want to be is the next transition. The police are following Yaira. Yaira notices and fights the police. The police be like, yo, Alpha Corps, please come! And then while she's fighting the police, out of nowhere, the Alpha Corps come, and this is before the splash page introducing the Alpha Corps. So if you're not paying attention, you think, oh, are these police officers suddenly flying? And the fighting with the police officers versus Alpha Corps is all on this page where all the panels are right next to each other, not in an interesting way. There's no visual indication to show that the Alpha Corps has arrived, except for in one panel where the outfit looks like an Alpha Corps outfit, and then I'm like, oh, Alpha Corps is here. And then the next page, Alpha Corps is there in this big old splash page. And I'm thinking, why wasn't the splash page before them fighting? Introduce Alpha Corps before Yaira fights Alpha Corps. Here's Alpha Corps' names. Braxwell, Brian Solari, and Griot Valdez. Alpha Corps told Yaira not to come back. Half a mile away. Avery drives the Darren's Club Merc. Avery parks in the back, talks to some security guards who be like, you're not supposed to be here. Darren comes out, he'd be like, whoa! Oh my goodness, it's Avery, haven't seen you in a long time. Oh my goodness, we're best pals. Let me give you a tour of the warehouse. Let me offer you a job. Do you need a job? You must sit. Do it. Do it now. You're forced to sit, Avery. Sit. Darren forces Avery to sit. Then Darren goes on this whole spiel about how he and Avery were competing for the freshman spot on the team. How Darren was always getting that bag, while Avery was always middling around, just being a middler. After Darren calls Avery a loser, Darren talks about his empire that he has built. This ain't no entrepreneurship. No, this is not a regular business. This is an empire. Jasmine is super useful to me and you are not. If you don't plan on working here, then you can just skedaddle. I don't have any use for you, Avery. So is Darren being fake nice? She's a grown woman. She can make her own decisions. Don't come back here. Don't come running around trying to snoop into Jasmine's business. She grown. Avery asks again, is Jasmine fine? And before Darren can answer that, the security officers come around him and start punching him. But Avery punches them back pretty easily, actually. Defeats them all. Until the elite comes. This is also the part of the book where Avery punches a guy in his ribs. And in the first printing, there's a bunch of red. But he has since changed it to electricity powers, so it doesn't look like blood. Elite and Avery fight, and Avery gets his butt beat up by Elite. I don't know how Avery can lose as usual if this is their first encounter. Whoa, I didn't know you hired accepts. Meaning this is the first time I've ever met this person. Why are they talking like they've met before? Elite says, I'm gonna need you to bounce before throwing Avery through the air. It's implied that he's thrown a mile through the air before he hits Yaira smack in the middle of the air. They fall and then immediately start fighting. This part of the book was definitely structured to have Avery and Yaira colliding in air. This is written like Eric July wants things to happen and not character-motivated actions. He's taking his action figure little toys and being like, I want them to do this now, I want them to do this, I'm gonna have them do this now, and then this now, and then this now. That's ISOM. Avery thinks Darren hired Yaira, while Yaira thinks Avery is undercover and is either an Alpha Corps or a police officer. Yaira won't let the super police stop her from doing what? Her motivation is never fleshed out in this book, by the way. Why is she fighting the police? Avery be like, I'm not one of them. So Yaira grabs him and flies him up into the air. And then because it'll send a message to the right guy, Yaira drops him and Avery falls on that infamous taxi cab. Here's something that I noticed. He's flying down one way, then he flips himself in the air, so he lands on his back instead of on his stomach. I think that's what his powers are. He can flip himself upside down any which way while he's falling. That explains why flying isn't one of his powers. And then, the jewelry ad. Back in the country, Sam drives up to Jim, does a little bit of a drop-off, because Jim has been giving Sam and their company a lot of money for the past few months. Jim moved his mom and daughter to this ranch and he has a lot of mouths to feed, and that's why he's paying Sam and the company many money. It's not clear what product he's selling. I'm guessing it's food. And Jim's a good customer. He pays ahead of time. Eric July wanted me to know that. That's very important for ISOM. Then Sam talks about how the in-person sales have decreased, but luckily there's delivery. But Avery's thinking about doing in-house delivery. Are they a pizza restaurant? What do they sell? And then Jim calls Avery ambitious, which is how I know Avery is ambitious. Telling me instead of showing me. That's what I always like. Sam be like, all right, I'm done here. Everybody go home. And then there's this one guy who stays back. He's like, I don't have anything to do. And Sam's like, all right, I like your work ethic. We're going to do some more work in. I'm going to train you to be the very best that no one ever was. Because we got to replace the boss. I'm like, what? Wait, what's up with this conflict? You guys are already losing sales. You need somebody sabotaging the entire power structure of the business from within? Alliance Medical Northwest. Doctors are trying to figure out if Avery is an accept because the tests don't say that he's an accept, but he clearly is because he didn't die from that fall. I also learned that some accepts are documented, and Avery is not documented. Avery has an odd bracelet thing that they tried cutting off, but then later, Avery is shown to easily remove it from his ankle to his wrist. What is going on at this doctor's office? Do they not know how to take off bracelets? Maybe there's some locking mechanism that only Avery knows the passcode to, but that's not shown at all in this comic. Avery has escaped the hospital. He's walking completely barefoot. He's in a hospital gown, and he's on the weird side of town. He's going to his truck for clothes and a phone. That little bracelet thing, yeah, that's the ping people. His sister Altona gets the ping, goes drive towards him, and picks him up, and Altona, she be asking a lot of questions. How did you get this injured? What happened? Did you find Jasmine? Did Darren give you these injuries? Avery be like, please don't tell mom, don't tell mom. His mom's a real weakness. Altona now is like, let's just call the cops. I should have called the cops in the first place. But then Avery's like, no, we shouldn't get the police involved. This is too risky. If any police show up, Jasmine is going to get executed on the spot. The execution thing is what I added. It's actually a lot more boring than that. There's gonna be trouble. Remember when Avery was like, let's involve the law? And now he's like, let's not involve the law. Classic character development. The sister be like, all right, fine, I'll take you to your truck. You gotta give me hourly updates or else I'ma tell mom. I didn't see him do any hourly. I didn't see him do any hourly updates for the rest of the book. Avery leaves. And then the text box says, oh, I'm not even doing this for Jasmine anymore. I just want to beat Darren up because he disrespected me. I almost forgot about her. Oh, the person that I did all of this for, I just want to beat up Darren now because he kicked me out of his club. And then we're back on the farm. Sam's talking to that guy who stayed behind about how everybody in America takes advantage of farmers, how much of a career it is. Everyone's like, oh, food, that's just at the grocery store. But who done did the food that goes to the grocery store? Farmers. Farmers are important, just in the middle of the book. It completely ruins the pacing and adds nothing. It's just flat out pandering. The guy who stayed behind, he just be chilling. While Sam gets a call, and then he puts his gun out and walks into a barn. And then I don't see any update from Sam on this situation. Why does he have his gun pulled out? Later on in the book, it's not shown at all why he has his gun pulled out. Gun pulled out, walking into the barn. It's like there's some sort of threat, but it's not shown. The page flip is Avery texting somebody. And for the rest of the book, this plot thread is never touched upon again. Avery was on the phone with Sam being like, oh, I'm glad that you stayed at the ranch, blah, blah, blah. I'll be here either tonight or in a few days. I'll see you later, Sam. Keep an eye on the ranch. Avery's just loitering outside of this restaurant in his truck. So much so that a guy comes out and asks, hey, what are you doing? You could just eat inside. Avery's like, nah, I'm good. Avery then asks, well, have you been to Club Merc? No, that's way out of my price range, bro. That's like the best club ever. Avery's like, do they have chicks there? Well, they don't strictly have chicks like a strip club, but they definitely have escorts. But the way that the dialogue is written, it's always shady talk. Always obfuscating what they actually mean. In the club, there are two people. We got a male with glowy eyes and a woman who can do purple energy. Their names are not given at all. Who are these people? They do a bit of a talking. She's like, what do you see? And he's like, I see a bunch of rich bozos and people pretending to be rich bozos. And then this line makes absolutely no sense. The girl says they be pretending the pulse of the town is maintained between these walls on this night. Are pulses maintained? Pulses just happen. It's your heart. It does the pulse. If you don't have a pulse, you're dead. Pulses are automatic. They're not maintained. Maintenance requires people to be paying attention to it. Somebody to actively fix it. You check your pulse. You don't maintain a pulse. So the dialogue says that people don't check their pulse here? What a stupid comic. Stupid people should not write smart characters. Pretending the pulse of town is maintained between these walls on this night. All of those rich bozos pretend that this is the hottest place in town. But he messes up the idiom. And then the guy goes, keeping tabs on the major movers without having to be everywhere. So you're thinking about buying this place out? After she was talking mad shit about the place. She likes this place more for the idea of it. She likes the idea of being able to check on what's going on throughout the city in one major place, while also being discreet. But that's exactly the opposite of what she just said. She said the people out there pretend that this place is hot shit. But now she's saying that it is actually hot shit. So what is it? They must consider the scale in their operation. And then the guard be like, there's a problem out back. But then it flips to Avery walking up to the club. He be walking on the side of it. He's not going in with the plan. He's been told it's ill-advised. When you plan, prep for the absolute worst. And when you don't have a plan, make it up along the way. That's how Avery lives his life. He discovers Jasmine, tries to talk to her. She's like, oh no. And then she just whimpers away while a bunch of guards be like, don't you touch her. Don't touch one of our girls. One of the guards puts his hand on the collar of Avery and Avery's like, why are you doing that? Avery proceeds to grab that guard's neck and slams his head into the concrete. Avery beats up all the outside guards, but lets one of the guards make a choice. You tell me where Darren is now, or I'll beat you up. And that gives the guard enough time to alert the people inside that there's an intruder, which I would have just knocked his ass cold, made sure that he couldn't tattle on me. But no, Avery's like, I want more of a fight. He busts through the back door. I just want Darren, guys. Please lead me to Darren. All the men are getting beat up. All the women are screaming, ah, Jasmine left at the right time, ah. Elite comes down, has a bit of a punch with Avery in the parking lot now. They were inside of a building, but now they're magically in the parking lot. Elite didn't think Avery would come back. That's why Avery's heroes end up dead. Avery is so cocky and trash talks and says this line, do not credit heroism when all of this takes place. Blame yourselves, but credit me? What does that mean? Elite's like, bro, you could just make so much money being elite. You've been beat up 3 times now. I've only counted once where he's gone up against the guards. Why is he saying 3 times? They've only met today. Earlier, it was their first meeting and fight. Now, this is the 3rd time they've encountered each other. And then Elite goes on about how Avery and him are not the same, even though they have same titles. They're completely different. And that Elite is so much better than Avery, and Avery shouldn't even be called an accept because they're on such different levels of plane. And then Avery ends up jumping off the wall, crashing into Elite's body with his body, and crashes him into a wall, knocking him out. Avery's fine, Elite's passed out. What's all this big talk you were saying, Elite? Elite's name is Santuan, but this isn't very clear. He's called the Elite Enforcer, and then some police officers towards Avery says, is that Santuan? So it makes me think that the police officers think that Avery is Santuan, but no, Elite is actually Santuan. That is just bad writing. Not all black guys look the same, Eric. Also, their fighting scene, it consists of before and after the impact, but never the impact. The splash page is them about to fight, and then the next panel, it's them having fought each other, and then they're like sliding away. What? I wanted to see the impact. Is there a page that's missing? Then later on in the action sequence, there's a couple of impact shots, but it's mostly in between the impact shots. After Avery defeats Santuan, some cops be like, "Yo, you are not allowed to be here. Come here." "Is that Santuan? Let's get him." They run after Avery. Avery does a parkour, runs up, jumps up the side of a wall, scales it like Assassin's Creed style, starts running on the roofs, and he loses the cops. Can't he fly? Why is he running? 'Cause he can't fly, cops. What is this emphasis on ISOM not being able to fly? We called an alpha core. They never show up for the rest of the book. Avery then jumps into the bed of a truck. That truck goes down through the interstate. And then that truck goes to his sister's house. He's not driving the car. He is not shown to have gotten out of that car and then into a new car, or maybe hijacked this guy's car and drives to his sister's house. The guy driving the truck knew for some reason that Avery had to go to his sister's place. "Hello, man who has just jumped into my truck bed. Let me take you to your sister's house." Avery rings on Altona's doorbell. Ring, ring. Altona be like, "Oh my goodness, it's you. I really regret having you be involved with any of this. I really should call the law boys." Avery be like, "I saw Jasmine. She seemed distressed." Altona's like, "Okay, we should tell Mrs. Newman that we saw Jasmine, but I don't want to go too deep into this." Altona seems like a quitter when things get hard. Avery's concerned that Darren will go after Altona, and Altona is like, "Considering who I work for? Please, I'm safe." And then Avery's niece wakes up, Vassie. The dad is gone. The dad's name is Terrell. Avery doesn't visit often. Vassie's like, "Why don't you visit? I want to see you more often." Avery's like, "I'm sorry. I'll make sure to come back more often." Vassie be like, "Do you have super strength?" "What? How do you know that?" "Well, Grandma's been talking about you having super strength." No. That's just a lie. That's false." "So I'm wrong?" "Yes, just go to sleep, honey. Go to bed." That's their interaction. Altona shows security footage of Jasmine in the lobby of Projexus the last day that she was there. Oh, I love it. The way that they're looking at the footage and being like, "Oh, so this is what she's doing, and this is how she feels," based on the video alone, is hilarious. Jasmine was pacing, takes a call, hesitates like she's gonna go on an elevator, then storms out. She looks scared, and look at how she monitors her surroundings. She's trying not to cause too much of a scene, too controlled to be fear. This is anger. What? The hesitation says a lot. It's about time. Something may have happened too early. Something she thought she could hold off? Eric, do you read this dialogue out loud? This sucks. Avery doesn't care about who she was talking on the phone with, though. Oh, that's not important. It might be very important, actually. It might contribute to her emotions. Altona, please keep your gun on you, even while you're at work. The transition implies that she works for Darren, but actually she works for Projexus, so this is a terrible transition. The text bubble in the corner says, "even at your work." The rest of the page is Darren plus a bunch of people at work having a big old meeting. In a good comic, that would be Altona's place of work, but it's not. Darren keeps on yapping about how he has made an empire, not an enterprise. Then he talks about how Avery's attacking their place over abroad. This means they can't handle him delicately. Quote, "This would galvanize our enemies." Figurative meaning. Galvanize often means to cause someone to become so excited or concerned about something that they are moved to take action. How would this galvanize our enemies? How would Avery attacking Club Merc over a broad make your enemies move in on your territory, make them go for action? The connection isn't set up at all. Plus, I feel the word galvanize is placed there to sound smart. Darren's gonna send a memo about Avery. Ooh, an email. Certain things ain't off limits. The next morning, Avery goes to the costume man, chats about how Avery returns stuff, how things have changed. Avery was one of the first costume commissions, and Costume Man has whole underground operation. And then out of the blue, the costume man starts talking about how he's going to protect his warehouse at any cost. And if you make a mistake, Avery, you're not going to be able to leave here. That's a threat, Avery. And Avery's like, got it, understood. Avery gets his old suit back. Why did Avery give him the suit in the first place? It's not explained. Costume Man be like, oh, I hate this design. This design sucks. I want to make you a new costume. What do you want to prioritize? Avery's like, fall damage, please. Go check the fit of that suit. See if the measurements are still the same. Avery goes into the changing room and comes out wearing the ISOM suit. What a reveal! It's to check to see if this still fits so that the costume man can make a new, better suit. What a terrible reveal. Somewhere near Florida, Norfolka is performing a boring and lyrically uninteresting song at a concert. Here's that song. The angels have fallen. My allies are beaten and broken down. I shed not a tear. After all, this is why we are here. A war we were not supposed to win. So if I'm to die tonight, I'll kill every demon that stands in my sight. Go! And the crowd leaves. They're loving it. Oh my goodness. Did you guys hear that line? Oh, that was so amazing. He looked into my eyes when he's saying that. Oh, I'm swooning. This is 110% Eric wanting this to be backwards. This is his fantasy. He wants people to go to a concert that he's performing at and come away being like, oh my goodness, Angela, he looked at me in his eyes with his big old eyes. Wow, you stared at me. He wants that. Now that I'm on the subject, this entire book is just Eric July's voice. Then Norfolka people are talking about how they feel a presence of some sort. They're not at all clear on what they feel. They just feel some sort of presence. Abnormal occurrences. There's some threat that only they can comprehend. Whoever they is, they're not very stealthy, but they're also very worrisome. They might need to cancel the tour, guys. Oh no! Norfolka, that's my favorite band. Don't cancel, please. Then a guy who's levitating with a bunch of green energy around him is like, you guys, let's just do nothing. We gotta wait. Here's the cavalry line, by the way. We just need to stay alert. We cannot risk calling in the cavalry quite yet. Eric swears up and down that that's not a typo at all. He did not mean cavalry. He meant Calvary. Do with that what you will. Then the guy with the big old fur on his shoulders be like, I don't recommend waiting because when we wait too long, then they're going to take over the realm. How about we just go find them? It's been a long time since they've needed a reason to get involved with the affairs of Earth. If it is time, they will soon find out. Our lyrics are not make-believe. And then a bunch of preview images, and that's the book. Riveting. Did that story fulfill you in any way? Literally all that happens is that Avery gets a call from his sister. He goes to Darren to ask questions. He instead is beat up, thrown into Yaira, who is fighting the police for some reason. They fight. Yaira throws him into a car. He leaves the hospital to get a phone and clothes, goes back to Darren's club, beats up his guards, defeats guy who defeated him earlier, runs from the cops, rides in back of truck to sister's house, chats, leaves, goes to Costume Man, and tries on his suit. That's literally all that happened. That's enough of the story, now it's time for art. All the 3D models make all the poses stiff, boring, uninteresting, and not dynamic whatsoever. Bad paneling with bad pacing. Most of the action is in between moments. Also, lots of people standing around and talking. The shading is mad inconsistent. The lighting is mad inconsistent. Oh my goodness. The coloring is garbage. I hate the coloring. The characters move around in the world with no motivated reasoning. Like how when Avery was in that building and then suddenly is in the parking lot outside. The transitions are just so jarring. The backgrounds are inconsistent and it makes it hard to map out the scene, makes it hard to map out the environment. The panel layouts are very annoying, and there seems to be a ton of Dutch angles that are placed randomly. There's no motivated reason for the Dutch angles to be there. They're just there. Oftentimes, there's unmotivated blue key light on a bunch of the characters. Where is that blue light coming from? Overall, the art looks very soulless. The art sucks. I hate it. Now it's time for lettering. The position of the text bubbles plus the word balloons makes it easy to read. The dialogue, however, is so clunky that it's hard to read. But that's a writing problem. There's a ton of automatopoeia in this. I just wish it was bigger. This isn't the letterer's fault, but more so the writing's fault. The dialogue sounds the exact same for every character. Every character has the same exact voice. Eric July. I just forgot to mention that during the writing part. Some places prioritize quotables, while other places there's just huge blocks of text for exposition that the letterer did a good job making all of that readable. Technically, this book is readable. Now it's time for action. The action is very boring. It's needlessly violent, goes from 0 to 100 very quickly. There's no natural escalation that makes me think, okay, this makes sense why they're fighting like this now. It just goes from, oh, they're just standing talking to, oh, now somebody's shoving somebody else's head into the concrete. I mean, that's how Eric thinks confrontation works. Immediate escalation as much as possible. If someone makes fun of you online, call the cops. The conflicts are very stupid and petty. A lot of the book is violence with reasons to commit violence in between all of the violence. Avery crashing into Yaira and into the car are very important for some reason. Now it's time for drama. In between moments of Avery being a bad person and the Jasmine thing, several details are introduced and never followed up upon. The guy at the office from the beginning, the guy working late at the ranch, and the Jasmine thing isn't even closed. The ending is Avery trying on his old suit instead of figuring out what's wrong with Jasmine. Oh, Jasmine seems scared. Time for me to go to my costume guy and get my suit. It's not a TV pilot. You can't just open a bunch of plot lines for no reason. You have to tell a story in every book too. There are 3 distinct rants in this one. How people take advantage of the farmers, how Darren is creating an empire, and how the costume guy needs to protect his warehouse. If you read ISOM, you get a really clear picture of Eric July's psyche. You get a look at what he really values, his warehouse. What does this book get on the sound scale? Story. Oh my goodness, it's just a series of happenings. The characters don't motivate the plot at all, and it's very dependent on there being future books. This book shows that Avery's not a guy I want to root for, but somehow I'm rooting for him. Overall, it's a huge mess, and it just feels like an excuse to have Avery fight Yaira and for Avery to get thrown into a car. It's a backdoor pilot for Yaira, Alpha Core, and Norfolka. Plus, there's so much filler. Half of it doesn't need to be there. And it ends where most stories' first acts would end. This is supposed to be the ill-advised trilogy. We'll have to see if it gets any better or ties any of the plot threads up. But remember that The Godfather is a great movie on its own, without the other 2 parts. It's important that these things stand alone and as part of a larger arc. This story sucks. I hate Avery. I hate Jasmine. I hate Altona. I love Darren. I'm gonna give this story, it's a 1. Art. It's ugly. The models are very stiff. Technically correct anatomy, but that's because it's 3D models. Of course, the anatomy of a 3D model would be perfect. You're taking a 3D model and putting it on the page. The art is so soulless, very inconsistent. There's so many art errors, and overall, I just hate it. The only good thing I could say about this art is that the 3D model's anatomy is correct. I'm gonna give the art, it's a 1. Letters. It's readable. I like the placement of all the text boxes and the word bubbles. The automatopoeia and the names are too small for me, but I'm appreciative that they're there. I don't have to stop and move my eyes to get a read of the dialogue direction because the text bubbles are put pretty flowily across the page. However, I did notice some typos, but I think that's mostly a writing issue and not the letterer's issue. So I'm gonna give it, it's like a 3. I just don't know if the typos are in the script or not. Action! Oh, it's so bland. Oh, it's so awful. I hate it. We got moments of people standing around and talking, and then sudden action moments happen, and they're super violent. I feel like all the writing is to set up characters fighting each other, but that's not even a majority of the book. That's probably like a third of the book is people fighting. All the fighting feels uninspired. The action makes me want to go to sleep, and I get super confused reading it. Always in the in-between of action moments. It's never on impact. It's always, oh, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get each other. And then, oh, we already fought each other. We're prepping for another fight stance. And then another one is, oh, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna punch you. And then the next one is, I already followed through with the punch, and I'm not showing that the guy got hurt at all. It's actually showing that I'm across the courtyard where we're fighting. It's just maddening to read this fight scene. And so I'm gonna have to give the action, it's a 1. And then the drama, oh god. So many plot threads introduced, but never closed. All the drama between Altona and Avery just feels forced. It just feels placed there, that there's something dramatic happening. And I don't feel anything. I want Avery to die for all I care. The drama is not compelling. In fact, it just feels like a series of happenings. And so I'm gonna give the drama, it's a 1. And so, what does ISOM get on the salad scale? It gets a 7 out of 25. And this has been Min's Got Issues.
Oh yeah, those are good because the